What is happening, Internet? K-Wing here, and hopefully you've seen the Snyder Cut, because if you haven't, well, this is going to be major spoilers, so just be warned. Today we're going to be talking about the ending and explaining how it fits into the DCU, if at all. But more right after this. Now, in terms of continuity, this video is going up well before my actual spoiler review, which has a pretty long runtime of over an hour. I mean, I talked for quite a bit, explaining all 7 characters, a lot of the cameo characters, and just the villain and Darkseid and everything. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about how does the ending fit into the greater DCEU, and honestly, it doesn't. This ending only works in the Snyderverse, and I'm going to explain just so people understand. Warning again, the following is spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, please do not watch this and then blame me for listening to said spoiler. That's on you. But without that out of the way, let's get to this. So, the ending of the movie is more or less exactly what I did in that spoiler video, which is called Spoilers Discussion, which people tried to flag and send to Warner Brothers. But guess what? This isn't my first rodeo. I didn't show any leaked images. I didn't show any leaked footage, blurred or otherwise. So there's no way legally that you could pull my video because I'm that good. Also, Warner Brothers did check my video and found no problem with me discussing things. So yeah, if the Tom and Jerry thing hadn't happened, yeah, it probably would have been in big trouble. But nope, that's besides the point. That video is correct, though, about the ending. So if you've seen it, my bad. But I did tell you straight up in that video that's essentially what the ending was going to be. Now, I did leave out some stuff because I was trying to keep it just focused on a couple elements that I thought were important to talk about. So let's start with the Lex and Deathstroke stuff, the epilogue. So the epilogue is the final chapter of the Snyder Cut. It's the 7th chapter titled Epilogue, and it details basically the Nightmare Earth, the Lex and Deathstroke stuff, which is very different than what we saw in 2017, as well as the Bruce and Martian Manhunter stuff, which was originally supposed to be the Bruce and Green Lantern things. So they changed it up. As I talked about in my spoiler review, the Martian Manhunter stuff was always planned to be a part of this universe, who would later show up, but he was kind of a coward. He was posing as a army general. He was going to pose as Martha Kent to visit Lois, as well as do some other stuff. But Green Lantern and Martian Manhunter were both supposed to be a part of this world. And at least for right now, only Martian Manhunter is. But let's go over Deathstroke and Lex. So Lex is broken out of Arkham Asylum this time, and it's a lot different than what we saw previously. Before last time, we just kind of heard the Arkham bells go off and Lex had escaped, and there was a lot more context to what happened. I was actually hoping for Deathstroke to go like all murder assassin and chop people up, which was part of their storyboard, believe it or not. And we didn't get that. There was some guy posing as Lex, and, Gotham then alerted that Lex was out, and we get the fun little interaction between Deathstroke and Lex, where Deathstroke doesn't want anything to do with Lex Luthor at all. He just doesn't care. Until Lex offers him something that is actually something Deathstroke is interested in, which is the name of Batman's real identity, Bruce Wayne. Now, this was something out of left field that I didn't even know was coming, and I wanted to save it for a more detailed video later on, and this is where it is. So originally, what we saw in the 2017 film is Lex says, shouldn't we have a league of our own? And, that hinted at an injustice group, which was part of Justice League Part 2 and 3, where Lex's team works with Darkseid. Because he was in league with Steppenwolf, he becomes an agent of Darkseid, and they team up to destroy Superman and the Justice League, which are in their way. It would have consisted of the Riddler and the Dr. Death, I believe, from the Wonder Woman movie, the first one with Gal Gadot. It would have had Ocean Master and Black Manta team up as part of the Injustice Gang, which were going to be introduced in the Aquaman movie, and were introduced in the Aquaman movie. So all of it connected, and the Riddler was hinted at in BVS. So the question mark that we saw where Batman and Superman were fighting in this underpass of the ruins of Gotham or whatever, that was teasing Riddler was coming. And Riddler was going to be the big bad of the Snyderverse Batman, not the Joker. Of course, Riddler would eventually end up killing himself over finding out about the anti-life equation and Batman would come to the epiphany that he has to sacrifice himself to keep Lois alive no matter what. And that's basically how the story goes in the Snyderverse. Where we go from here now, I don't know. The only way I would say that this story arc would continue would be based on if Ben Affleck is able to get his miniseries on HBO Max, because there's no way he's going to get a movie, even though the current executive at Warner Brothers has said that they're okay with multiple Batman and Superman because of their multiverse. I don't know if necessarily they're okay with Ben getting his own movie, so let's see if Ben is open to a miniseries, which HBO Max is still pursuing, by the way, as is the Deathstroke actor, because I feel really bad for Deathstroke, because did you know for 4 years he's been prepping, learning gun training, swordplay, acrobatics, everything to put him on the same wavelength as Ben Affleck's Batman, which Ben also went through a grueling ordeal, learning martial arts and all this other stuff, so that he could really give us a good performance as Batman. Both these actors were robbed their glory, and HBO Max needs to do right by them, because I don't know about you, but if I wasted 4 years of my life prepping for a part I would never get to play, I'd be pretty bitter about it. So I give props to Deathstroke, like the actor, because he's being awfully patient about all this. There's a lot that he wants to show us of his character, and he was going to appear in the Batman movie and then the Justice League movies, both the Nightmare Earth and some other stuff. So I really hope they do right by these actors. But yeah, Lex changes the game, tells Deathstroke who Batman is, and Deathstroke joins in Legion with Lex Luthor, which happened in this movie, and that was kind of nice. And then after that, it flashes forward to, of course, the Nightmare Earth, which we've talked about in detail before, but more or less the same thing. Joker goats Batman about the death of his son. Mira is just super cringeworthy, but she is lamenting the loss of her husband, King Arthur, which, is Aquaman, carrying around his trident. But again, if she was really going to be able to kill Superman, even though I know she has magic, which they might be hinting that Superman is weak toward magic, hence her involvement in this ragtag group of rebels, Batman's insurgency from the Injustice world, because that's what they're doing. They're doing Injustice now. They're not doing Darkseid taking over Thanos style. They're going to have Superman dispatch of Darkseid, and Superman's going to rule the earth like an Injustice and just kill off the entire Justice League, and probably all the villains too. Like, everybody is thinking it's going to go one way, and it's not. And people are pretty upset if Superman ends up becoming a villain, but he won't be a villain very long, just one movie or one miniseries, so just chill. Okay, so yeah, Nightmare Earth we've talked about in detail. That is what the direction for Justice League Part 2 is going to be. Batman sending his team back in time with flashbacks about what happened with Lois dying. Probably more detailed flashbacks like what we got with the Nightmare sequence in BVS. Like, you might have a half hour of, past exposition about what happened, leading to Darkseid coming to Earth and killing everybody, and the only survivors being Batman, Superman, Flash, and Cyborg in some capacity. Cyborg was supposed to look a lot more different in the Nightmare world. He was supposed to have, like, tank legs or something like that, because, Superman rips him in half or something. But we saw a fully functioning Cyborg, which was probably due to the budget. Like, they didn't really have a lot of time to get this out before March. So I'd expect them to, make some changes if they're able to get Ray on board. But Ray not being a part of this right now is really, throwing a monkey wrench into the Snyder Cut's continuation, because you can't do this without Ray Fisher. He is Cyborg. I can't see another actor playing Cyborg. It's not like the Rhodey thing from Marvel where you can just replace Rhodey with another actor. You can't do it with Cyborg. There's no other person that can play Cyborg. Not to me, not to anybody who watched this 4-hour movie. There's no way. So Warner Brothers and Ray need to come to some type of accord and, agree to work together so that the Snyder Cut can continue. Because you can say restore the Snyder verse until you're blue in the face. If Ray doesn't do it, there is no Snyderverse, because you can't write Cyborg out of this. Unless that was just an alternate future where Cyborg was around and he ended up being destroyed. I don't know. We did witness an alternate future where Cyborg witnessed Batman and everybody being dead and only Superman and Darkseid around. So, I mean, time travel is a very interesting, complex thing. So I guess we'll see where we can go with that. At this time, I don't see any way of the Snyder Cut ending connecting to The Flash or Aquaman. And I'm going to tell you straight out, there's no way this can connect to Aquaman because they did a lot of differences with William Dafoe, Aquaman, and Mira in this movie. Mira is infatuated by Arthur at the get-go in the Snyder Cut, and he is not really paying attention to her. Like, he's the one enamored in the Aquaman movie, and eventually the two get together, and, you know, whereas in this one, she's going after the strong bad boy, and it's completely different. Another difference is William Dafoe is the one to encourage Jason Momoa to take up his mother's responsibilities, which is echoed by Mira, and he does it because he just doesn't want to be lectured and he hates Atlanteans. But he realizes now, okay, the surface world might be in trouble now. He loves the surface world more than he does Atlantis, which is the same as the Aquaman movie. But the thing that really kills the Aquaman movie is one particular scene in the Snyder Cut, which is very different than Aquaman, which makes it a parallel Earth. It has to be. Now, Arthur likes to hang out in the tomb of the dead king of Atlantis, where his birthright, the armor and the trident of the king, lays right in front of him. Like, he could literally walk up and pick up the trident without any problems in the Snyder Cut. Whereas in James Wan's movie, they had to make a whole 2-hour movie, Indiana Jones style, of them searching for the whereabouts of the tomb of the king of Atlantis. You see what happened there? Snyder made it impossible for the Snyderverse to be connected to the DC Cinematic Universe. Impossible. There's no way you could do it. Unless it's an alternate Earth. I don't see how it's possible. It's a different Mira. It's a different Aquaman. Completely different Aquaman than in the 2017 and Snyder Cut. 2021 Aquaman is very serious, very deadly, very powerful. 2017 Aquaman is kind of like a jokester, like The Flash. Pretty timid. Really does his best to get the job done, but he's not as strong as Wonder Woman, as it's shown. This guy was able to go blow to blow with Steppenwolf in the water in the Snyder Cut version, and it took a sucker punch from Steppenwolf to put like Arthur down for like a few seconds, whereas I believe Mira had to help him in the Whedon version. So, I mean, it's very different. Also, she nagged him quite a bit, and she was trying to be like a strong feminist type in the both the Whedon and the James Wan version. So you don't get that version. Mira is very powerful in her own right, but she is a woman. So when she gets knocked around by Steppenwolf, she's down. It's not like, oh, I took a blow from Steppenwolf, I can keep doing my magic. No, she does some pretty impressive like water bending where she's trying to take the fluids out of Steppenwolf's body, but he smacks her around, KOs her, and Arthur comes to save her at the last moment. That was pretty cool. I have to admit, I like that, but it changes Aquaman completely in the DC Cinematic Universe. And with Aquaman 2 coming, I don't see how Snyder Cut can connect, honestly. I just don't. That would take brilliant writing and explanation. Like, you would have to have a mini-series explaining the differences. There's just too many. So that's just the Aquaman front. Now let's talk about The Flash. The Flash is a coward in the 2017 movie, which is they're basing on the canon for the Flash movie. So you're going to see more of the same of like a Flash that's not very confident in his abilities. He's very timid when it comes to fighting people and working with a superhero team. He doesn't know what he's doing, which Whedon hammers over and over again in the 2017 movie. If you just came out watching the Snyder Cut, then you would know that Flash is a very powerful character that has the ability right now to tap into the Speed Force and time travel. And he is very aware of his powers and how to use them. He also knows the extent of his powers and worried about being destroyed by them, which is something he kind of talked about in the Snyder Cut. Basically yelling at Cyborg that he's reaching his limits and he's going to break apart. When Cyborg was being attacked by Steppenwolf, and of course the world was destroyed for the first time. Sorry, spoilers, but I told you guys spoilers were going to happen in this. So it can't be the same Flash from the Snyder Cut into the DC Cinematic Universe. It doesn't work because that Flash is somebody who is not very skilled, may accidentally end up time traveling for comedic aspects, like we saw in the CW crossover, where he wasn't even aware that he traveled to the CW verse. Like, he was on the cosmic treadmill hanging out with Cyborg, and poof, he ended up in another dimension. It's kind of a joke. He's very conscious of things in the Snyder Cut, to the point where Flash is actually a superhero, not a joke, from the 2017 movie to 2021. So you can't have the same Flash anymore. Ezra Miller would have to play the version of Flash that people actually like, because I'm just going to tell you flat out, most people do not like Ezra Miller's Flash in the 2017 movie, in the Suicide Squad. Everybody is talking about how cool the Flash is right now. So Zack made the Flash look cool when everybody did not like him previously because they thought he was Flash Boy. They thought he was like Batman's superpowered sidekick. You don't get that watching the Snyder Cut. Not the same. But let's continue. So that's another reason that the ending cannot connect to the DC Cinematic Universe. So the Snyderverse has to be its own separate thing. The final scene, Martian Manhunter and Batman. Now, originally, this was supposed to be Kilowog and another Green Lantern warning Batman that the invasion is imminent, Darkseid is coming. And then fade to black, it was supposed to be a short little scene. In this one, Martian Manhunter is talking to Bruce, which is a new scene. Never was supposed to happen. And he's telling him that he feels that Darkseid is coming. Like, this isn't the end. Like, Steppenwolf may be defeated, but we need to, start prepping our defenses, which is fine. I mean, it makes sense. Martian Manhunter wouldn't be able to sense across the galaxy or universe that Darkseid is coming the way that, an intergalactic police force would know that Darkseid is moving. So it's a completely different scene in that sense from the storyboard originally to what we saw in the Snyder Cut. So that alone makes differences because you literally introduced Martian Manhunter and he's never appeared, beforehand. You could argue that the actor who plays Martian Manhunter, which we all know is Martian Manhunter, his appearance in BVS, because his eyes did not turn red, no moviegoer knows that guy, the general, is Martian Manhunter. All they would have had to do in BVS is make the general's eyes turn red for a brief second when they nuked Superman, because nobody was watching him when he was in the war room with all those people. That's how you would have introduced Martian Manhunter real quick, or at least teased it. Also, here's another thing besides Martian Manhunter. Ryan Chow, the Atom, has a huge side role in the Snyder Cut. He is introduced as a Star Labs scientist, and at the end, when he takes over as the head of Star Labs, they mention some of the things that he's really interested in, which is the technology that he creates to shrink himself. So Ray Palmer is not going to be the guy who creates the Atom in this universe. It's going to be, of course, Ryan, which is fine. But also there's another problem. So now you've introduced Martian Manhunter and the Atom. How are you going to fit them into the DC Cinematic Universe unless you connect the Snyderverse? And if you connect the Snyderverse, what about the other films coming out? Aquaman 2 is going to be connected to the Aquaman first movie. Aquaman first movie follows some of the same story beats of the 2017 Aquaman movie. And it also basically retcons with the Snyder Cut aspects of the Aquaman movie, which is the entire point of the movie, getting the trident of the king and the power to control all the fish. We didn't see Aquaman controlling fish in the Snyder Cut. I don't believe so. The joke of Aquaman controlling fish was Ben Affleck in the 2017 movie. So, I mean, you could argue with me that, in the Aquaman movie, they just kind of hint that he was in the Justice League. It's like, that's fine. That's a great argument. But at the same time, how are you going to explain to me the entire point of the movie was getting the trident from the dead king, and it took them the entire movie to do it? Whereas in the Snyder Cut, that is where Aquaman is hanging out when William Dafoe comes to talk to him. So explain that to me, Internet. As someone who is like super into continuity, how do you do this? How would you connect it? I want to know. There we go. I'll leave this to you guys. How would you connect the Snyder Cut to the greater DC Cinematic Universe? Would you have Flash erase everything with Flashpoint and try to keep some of the stuff consistent between Whedon's verse and the DC Cinematic Universe and Snyder Cut? Or would you have them follow the same plot that they were going with the Snyderverse? Because, spoiler, Snyderverse is better. Snyderverse has more characters. It has an imminent threat that is literally carpooling its way to Earth right now. It might take like 10 years or however many years for them to travel, but Darkseid's going to come and wipe everybody out to get his prize, the anti-life equation. You can't stop that now. Doesn't really care that Steppenwolf is dead. He knows the anti-life equation is there. Darkseid's not just going to leave Earth alone in the multiverse. He's coming, whether it's going to appear as a movie, like an animated film or a comic book or a video game, the Snyderverse is going to continue in some extent, but I personally don't see how it's going to work as a movie franchise without retconning a bunch of things. And they're going to have to use the Flash to do that, or they're going to have some of the other movies do something. Like, I thought Wonder Woman was going to be a soft retcon because of the magic Pandora box thing, but nope. All that was resolved very weirdly, and I don't like that version of Wonder Woman compared to what we just saw in Snyder Cut. I want the Wonder Woman that we saw in that awesome 4-hour movie to be the Wonder Woman that continues, not the one that Gal Gadot and her director created for the second Wonder Woman movie, because it just without Zack's input and consulting or whatever, it's not the same Wonder Woman that fans really are just talking about so much on Twitter right now. So yeah, honestly, guys, I don't see how you could connect the Snyderverse to the greater DC cinematic universe that's coming. The Black Adam movie, the rebooted Superman movie, supposedly rebooted Batman movie with a Black Batman, which they're talking about. The Matt Reeves Batman movie, which isn't connected, it's part of the DC Black label. Let's see, Shazam sequel, Wonder Woman 3, all the other stuff. Like, there's going to be an HBO Max Batgirl thing now, which may or may not have Michael Keaton attached. So, I mean, we're right back to where we started with the DC Cinematic Universe having no plan. They're just throwing names around. And the only one in the DC Cinematic Universe that kind of has a shared continuity idea is the Rock, who wants Henry Cavill as Superman to appear in Black Adam as a cameo and to have a substantial role in Shazam 2. And if Superman says no, then, I mean, that's it for your shared universe. No Snyder Cut. The only way the Snyder Cut can continue, in my point of view, is if Henry Cavill says yes to the cameo roles, yes to the Supergirl role, so that we can get more of Henry Superman, which we demand more of Henry Superman, and Henry wants more of Henry Superman, but he just wants a bigger role for Henry Superman. He wants his Man of Steel 2 movie with Brainiac. I do too, actually. After seeing Superman kick butt in the Snyder Cut, yeah, I want to see him take on Brainiac, and I want to see the Justice League maybe help, or maybe make Brainiac the next villain that the Justice League has to deal with before Darkseid arrives. Like, it takes a long time to travel without the use of the mother boxes and boom tubes, right? We didn't really see a lot of boom tube technology in the Snyder Cut. The boom tube was because the mother boxes united and was able to bring Darkseid to them. Apparently, he doesn't have a lot of boom tubes right now, which is fine. I mean, the character is a literal god in this universe. Let him take his time to come to Earth. Really milk that out a little bit, but still show us more Darkseid and, the continuing stuff. Also, you can't have the Snyderverse without Ben Affleck and Deathstroke throwing down, because what's going to happen to that whole plot line that now Deathstroke knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman? Bruce Wayne is literally in mortal danger now. I want to see that play out. Batman has no idea that Deathstroke knows who he is, and they have history. Apparently, Batman cut his eye out, and maybe was responsible for killing his kids. I don't know. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and this could be it. This really could be like, we'll just be speculating for the next 10 years about what could have happened. And instead of that, I would actually like to see it happen. But at this point in time, I'm telling you guys, I don't know how you could connect the Snyder Cut to the greater DC cinematic universe. In my eyes, you're going to need an amazing writer from DC Comics or a screenwriter to make this all make sense, because Zack literally just basically gave the finger to DC in ways that are going to drive fans wild, because they want the Atom. They want Martian Manhunter. They want Deathstroke versus Batman. There was so much in this movie that you want to continue, and you may never get. And that hurts so much. But anyway, people, that does it for the ending of Justice League Explained. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know pretty much what I asked you guys in the comments. If you could see the world continuing, like maybe Flash is time traveling and everything gets erased, or I don't know. I mean, that seems like a terrible cop-out and still is going to leave a lot of hanging plot points. But if they're going to do it, I really believe that somehow the Nightmare Earth is going to do it. With the introduction of Green Lantern or whatever. But I guess we'll find out. I mean, it's always fun to speculate. My long review, the spoiler one, is coming, so be on the lookout for that. Have a fantastic morning, and I will be back with some Bat News talking about the amazing Nightwing book that just dropped not long ago. But until we meet again, guys, thanks so much for listening, Gothamites. God bless. Peace.